Hey, Rick, how you doing? It's our third lesson of our first week back today, and we are still obviously on war poetry. We're still looking at The Soldier by Rupert Brooke today, um, and today's lesson is about trying to get a really uh, solid and deeper understanding of this poem. Okay, so our objective today is number one, to develop a deeper understanding of the soldier by analysing the structure and form. It's one of the best things about poetry is that um, the way the poet has put the ideas down on paper, the way it's been arranged in lines and into stanzas, and the way that the rhyme is used and the different line lengths are used, it allows a structural analysis to be really quite an obvious thing. So, where sometimes structure in a novel or in a piece of prose is quite difficult to spot the features, in poetry, structure of it is often quite an obvious standout feature. So hopefully you'll find that quite enjoyable today. And the second thing we're looking at today is really trying to raise our game when it comes to terminology. So we've got a whole list of terms here that I'm going to be using and we're going to be using in today's lesson with the aim that you're going to become much more confident and comfortable in using these terms. Okay. Here is the soldier poem that we've been looking at for the Rupert Brooke poem that we looked at yesterday, and obviously the first thing to do is I just want to just go through some of the terminology so we are feeling a little bit more comfortable with them all, with these words. So first of all, the first term is sonnet, and in this case, the sonnet is the whole poem. Okay, the whole poem is a sonnet, um, and because it's a sonnet because it's got the right number of lines, which is the main characteristic of sonnet. It's got 14 lines. Pretty much any poem that's got 14 lines is called a sonnet. There's some other things as well that we'll learn about today that also make it a sonnet, but it's the 14 lines is the key one. It's got that. While we're talking about lines, a line of poetry is simply any one of those 14 lines. So that that could be a line. That's a line there. In this case, that's line 5. Okay. Um, this one here is line 13. So a line is, when we talk about lines, that's always when it's like a sentence in the poem. The next term is octet, and that's probably a new term. And an octet means 8 lines. So in this sonnet we have an octet here, and that's that green box just highlights the octet. And then this wrong colour, I apologise. It's not really very used to it. And then the sestet, which is in blue, is the 6 lines underneath. So octet and sestet. We have 8 lines and 6 lines. The next is meter, and meter is simply a way of describing and labeling the length of a line, okay, and how many beats are in a line, and that relies on syllables. Okay, so if we look at the first line, if I should die, think only this of me, and you count those syllables out. If I should die, think only this of me, you get 10. Okay, so you get 10 syllables, and that means the meter is called iambic pentameter. Okay, iambic means kind of 2 feet, like 2 beats, and pentameter means 5. So 5 lots of 2 beats, or 2 lots of 5 beats. No, 5 lots of 2 beats. That's right around. 5 lots of 2 beats. So it should go dee dum, dee dum, dee dum, dee dum, dee dum. That's 5 lots of dee dum. Okay, dee dum is a pair, and there's 5 pairs. So if I should die, think only this of me. Dee dum, dee dum, dee dum, dee dum, dee dum. That there's some corner of a foreign field that is forever England there shall be. In that rich earth a richer dust concealed. You get the idea? So the whole poem, if the meter is consistent, can be read in that kind of slightly weird way. But sonnets have that feature. Sometimes in a sonnet, we have a thing called elision. Now, partway through the lesson today, I'm going to ask you to look for elision. So I'm going to leave this one a little bit open, but it's a it's one of the kind of the syllable kind of terms. So when you're looking for it, what you're doing with elision, when we get to that part of the lesson, you're going to be looking at the syllables again and working out the meter. And finally, we got rhyme, and rhyme I think is probably the thing that stands out most when it comes to poetry. And rhyme is all about the last sounds in each line. In this poem, we have words like, if I just change to slightly thinner pen, we have words like me here, me, rhymes with B, so that goes A, underneath there. But field doesn't rhyme with me, so that's B. Concealed rhymes with field, so that's another B. So the rhyming pattern in the first four lines goes A, B, A, B. Aware is a new sound. That doesn't rhyme with anything that's gone before, so that must be called C. Roam is also a new sound, so that's called D. But air does rhyme with aware, so that's C again. And home does rhyme with roam, so that's D again. So C, D, C, D. Okay, so that's how you label a rhyme pattern. And if we go further down, the next sound will be E. Away, is that a new sound or an old sound? Well, none of the other words rhyme with away, so that's a new sound, so that's E. Less is also a new sound. There's no other less sound, there's no S's to rhyme with up here, so that's F. Oops, that didn't quite work. There we are. And given, well, again, that's another new sound, so that's G. So we've got three new sounds on the trot there in the sestet, E, F, G. But then day does rhyme with away, so that's another E. Gentleness does rhyme with no less, so that's F. And heaven and given, that's close enough as well to make that a rhyme too. So you can see the rhyme pattern is A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, E, F, G. Okay, so that's the terminology covered. And obviously, if you need to remind yourself of any of the terminology during the lesson, just rewind the video back to this part here and you can watch it again moving forward. So we're now going to focus on the sonnet form. Okay, the whole thing is about trying to understand this poem from this particular angle, the idea of it being a sonnet and how that is integral to the actual poem itself. So there's going to be 6 questions today, and they've been highlighted already for you. The first thing is a little bit of an intro. So The Soldier is a sonnet, a 14-line poem with a set rhyme pattern and lines with 10 syllables. That's what a sonnet is. This is a very old and traditional poetic form which is usually associated with love poetry. Okay, so that's the idea, that a sonnet is usually associated with love and ideas about love. So the question is, what makes The Soldier a traditional sonnet? And there's 3 things to think about. Well, how is this poem a love poem? What is it that the soldier loves? And how far is he prepared to go to show his love? So there's the question. There's 3 bullet points to kind of think about in your answer. And if you want to pause the video now, you can write your answer to that question. And when you're ready, press play and move on. Right, sonnet form part 2. So in the sonnet form, the first line of the poem establishes the key idea of the text. So for this question, we're looking at the first line and how that is an important structural part of the poem. Sometimes the first line is a question, and the remaining 13 lines are the answer. Let's have a little sip of coffee, hang on. On other occasions, the first line is a statement, and the following 13 lines are the justification of that statement. So the question here, for question 2, is How is the first line in The Soldier typical of sonnet form? And your job is first of all to explain what the first line is doing. So is it a question? Is it a statement? And then the second bullet point, explain how the rest of the poem relates to the first line. So what is the relationship between that first line, what the first line says, what the first line is doing, and then the remaining 13 lines and what those lines are doing. Now, you don't have to go by line by line by line, just kind of a summary of what the first line does and then what the rest of the poem does. And that'll be enough there in your answer for question 2. But make sure you write about both parts, the first line and the rest of the poem. Again, pause the video here, just give you time to get your answer done for question 2. And when you're ready, press play and move on. Right, sonnet form part 3. We're moving into a kind of sub-genre within the sonnet form now. So this is possibly new information. The Soldier is an Italian sonnet because it's structured into an octet, 8 lines, and a sestet of 6 lines. This type of sonnet will use the first 8 lines to set out an idea, but then the following 6 lines will develop this idea further or introduce a new but still linked idea. So, an Italian sonnet has 2 halves to it. The first part, the first in the octet, sets up an idea, and then the sestet, the second part of the sonnet, introduces a new idea or develops that first idea in a new way. It moves it forward, okay, in some way, shape, or form. So your question is, what makes The Soldier an Italian sonnet? And your answer is going to be these 2 bullet points. First of all, what is the main idea in the octet? Explain what that is, and then explain how the sestet, the 6 lines in the second half of the poem, how that develops that idea that was in the first part of the poem. Okay, or does it actually introduce a new idea that is somehow related to that first part of the poem? Okay. Again, pause the poem here, pause the video here, give yourself a bit of time to think. You can always replay this bit. This is the hardest question so far, so if it's a bit confusing, don't worry. You can replay it and listen to my explanation again, and then pause it, obviously, have a think, and write your answer. When you're ready, you can move on. Sonnet form part 4. Okay, now we're now moving on to the idea of meter and the number of beats in a line. So a sonnet usually has a strict meter and a set number of beats in a line. Traditionally, the number of syllables in a line is 10, and you can check by reading the first line of The Soldier, and I've put the beats below. So here we are, a bit like we did earlier when we were looking at the poem and going through the terminology. If I should die, think only this of me. If I should die, that's 4. Think only this of me. There's our 10 beats. Sometimes a line might be longer or shorter. In The Soldier, the longer lines have 11 syllables. However, Brooke uses a clever trick called elision to slip the extra beats in. So question 4 is, find a line in the poem that has 11 syllables. That's the first little task. So go back to the poem and look at the poem and look at the lines and try and find the ones that have got 11 syllables, and then explain how those 11 syllables in that line are squeezed into 10 beats. Okay, and that will be the kind of definition of elision. Okay, now you could cheat and just look up the word elision on the internet, but I wouldn't recommend it because that would be cheating and that would be an awful thing to do. Okay, as always, pause here while you write your answer, or think about your answer, or go back, and if you want to look at the poem, just obviously do that. And when you're ready, press play and pick up where we left off. Right, part 5. Now there's 2 questions on this slide. We'll come to that in a moment though. This one is about the rhyme pattern. So this slide is all about rhyme. Okay. Sonnets usually have a strict rhyme pattern. The Italian sonnet has a pattern ABBA, ABBA, CDE, CDA. And the English sonnet, which is the other type of sonnet, so there's only 2 types of sonnet in that we kind of ever look at, Italian sonnet and the English sonnet. The English sonnet has the pattern ABAB, CDCD, EFEF, and GG. Okay. What I want you to do for question 5 is I want you to look at the rhyme pattern, and we have labelled the rhyme pattern at the beginning of the video, so you can go back if you wanted to, or you can just when you do that, when you look back at the poem, and look at the rhyme pattern in the octet, the first 8 lines, and what is it? And then look at the rhyme pattern in the sestet, and what is that? So basically, I just want you to label the octet pattern and the sestet pattern. Okay? So just write down the A, B, whatever the patterns are, as your answer to question 5 for the 14 lines of the poem. But make sure it's clear where the octet and where the sestet are. Then move on to question 6. Looking at that rhyme pattern that Rupert Brooke has used, hopefully you're gonna notice something about it. Okay, there's something a bit unusual. Otherwise, I wouldn't have raised it, would I? So there's something a bit unusual about the rhyme pattern for this poem. And I want you to then try and work out, well, what is going on here? Can you interpret the rhyme pattern so that it actually has a meaning? Okay, so question 6 is, how does the rhyme pattern reflect the ideas in the poem? Okay, and I suggest now you pause the video, have a think about the questions, go back and look at the poem again at the beginning of the video, have a think about everything that I've asked you to think about, and take your time, don't rush to get the answers down. Okay, good luck with this. I don't know if you're going to find it difficult or easy, because poetry is one of those funny things that some people can find very difficult and some people can find it very straightforward. So it's difficult to predict who's going to find this difficult and easy. But if you are struggling, just watch the video again, and it might make more sense the second time around. Okay, good luck. Do the best you can. Don't worry if you leave any questions out. Just have a go, and then we'll go through some of the answers in our next video. Okay, good luck, guys, and see you soon. Take care now. Bye for now.